Welcome in. It is day 232, and you're speaking to the Meeples Champion. And today we're going to be going over an older game. This is one that I just played for the first time. It's actually one that got brought up multiple times on other channels this week, and I was surprised when one of my friends pulled it out of the bag and picked it for the Monday night game. The game is called Bastket Boss. Now, the concept of the game is that you are playing a season of basketball, and you are essentially, you can call yourself the GM or you can call yourself the owner, but the idea is that you're going to be playing through 6 seasons. So during these 6 seasons, you were trying to start off with your basic 5, which each has a different color representing their different skills or positions, and they each have 1 star worth what they are. Now you get a point per star, and you get a point per position. So when you start, you're at 10. And you're going to now pull out based on however many people there are. You're going to be basically drafting out. We were playing 5-player, so it said, okay, you're going to keep pulling from the bag until either you've hit $6 worth or you've hit 7 players. You put them out, and then starting with player 1, you start bidding. Whoever is the winner is the only one that pays. Everybody else gets their money back. And when you bid, you win, you put your money in the middle, you get your player. You now have to put them on your team. You do not have to cover up the position that they were with them. So if you want to have 2 point guards, you can have 2 point guards. So you put them out on your team somewhere, and then the next person's up. And you keep going until all the players have been drafted, or nobody drafted somebody and they went away. You do this, and then when you're done, now's where the fun happens, because you're going to have your players all with different stars. You have to add up all that together, figure out where you land. But you're also drafting these 6 abilities during the game. So some of them are going to give you an advantage of every time you pass on a draft, you're going to get $1. Another one gives you the ability of, well, you're the referee, so you're going to break all the ties. And if other players that don't involve you are tied, then the winner has to pay you half of the money they bid. So there's a bunch of really cool cards that affect it. But you're going to essentially count up all your points, and then see who gets first, second, third, fourth, fifth. First player gets a 10-point trophy for winning the season. This is the NBA championship. The second one gets a 6-point trophy for second place. Third is going to end up getting a 4-point. Fourth gets a 2-point. Fifth gets nothing. And then you have to age your players up. So all your players are going to have to bump up, and they have different levels of stars going down. So some players start off hot, but they kind of burn out. Other players are pretty consistent. Other players start off weak, but they slowly get better throughout the years. Some players start off a little weak, get a little bit better, and then start to filter off. And it's up to you to decide who to get and when, and try to make sure that you're able to even these out. When is it time to retire a player? Because you know that you've used their best 2 couple years, and now it's time to grab somebody to replace them and get them off your team. So this is what you're doing. Then you go to season 2, and you do this for 6 seasons. Now, season 1 and season 6, there's nothing. But seasons 2, 3, 4, and 5, there are special abilities, something that'll let you score a little bit differently. So, for instance, one of the ones we ran into was, well, for every player who is the same as another player's position on your team, they each get a +2. So if you had 2 point guards, well, you're going to lose 1 star because you've given up another position to have 2 of the same. But each of them are going to gain 2 stars. So you're making a 3 net profit in your stars. So this is really the kind of thing you're dealing with. You're able to see all of it ahead of time. So you can pre-plan for your whole season, your next 6 seasons, and think what you want to do. When does a player make sense to you? When does it not? There's the occasional injury that's going to pop up. It comes right out with the players, and you all have to bid just in secret. Whoever bids the least gets them, and everybody else loses their money. Well, the least also loses their money, but more likely than not, like we did, the least was always 0. But it's just a really cool way of running through this. It really messes with people. It's a fun game. But why don't we jump in? Let's judge on our 7 categories and see where this game lands for us. When it comes to the art, it was okay. I think as a basketball fan, if you're going to buy a board game, this is going to be one that'll grab your eye because it's all about the theme of basketball. But for me, this box is not bad. It's just not eye-grabbing. I don't know that I would have grabbed this on my own. Inside the box is better. I think it's a much better art inside. But there's nothing about this that screams, come try me out. But the game played really well, and that's where I feel like the art's hurting it, because They could have done something better than this. And I think that would have helped the game for grabbing eyes, whether it's set up on a table or whether you see it on a store. For me, it just wasn't strong enough art. It's going to be a thumbs down. Components. So when it comes to your trophies, when it comes to your money, all that's cardboard. Your player board is a nice cardboard, large player board. And then your basic cards are fine, but the cards for your basketball players, they're almost kind of like rulers. I'm a little worried if I owned this game about longevity of those particular pieces. I didn't see any proof that they easily tear or anything, but the person who brought this game, they had just played it with us for the first time. So the game was brand new. The pieces were top notch. So the question is, in the longevity, will those last? I think all the other pieces are without question fine, but that particular piece did grab my attention during the game. It's something I would keep an eye out for. But for now, I have to judge on what I saw, and they all were really good, so I'll give it a thumbs up. Your price. So this game is probably in that range of about $40. It's not wildly available out there, but it's not unavailable. It's just not an easy to find game. So you'll find it in rare, or occasional board game stores. You're probably going to find it not as much on Amazon, although I will look and see what I can do there. But it's more likely you're going to find this on specific sites because the game just wasn't a mass production. But it was a good game, and I think that the game for its price is good. So I'll give it a thumbs up. Difficulty. This is a game about how far ahead can you plan. You can have fun season to season and enjoy the game, but to play the game, I feel like you need to have an expert or a experienced player's level of understanding. I think that a kid, this would be a little bit too much for. And I think for a beginner, if this is really the game you're beginning off with, it's not impossible. It's definitely one where I think you could play it for the season, but did you pay attention to all that was going on? And we were able to keep up for seasons 4 and 5 compared to other players who might have been doing that. In my case, first time playing the game, wasn't 100% sure. I got caught off guard by a couple of rules I didn't realize going in. I wasn't paying attention to the season changing scoring abilities and suddenly realized, oh no, I've got myself in trouble here. I haven't prepped for season 4 in the first 3 seasons, and suddenly I'm not doing very well. So I think that this one is a little bit stronger for those experienced and expert players. That being said, it's still a fun game to play. I don't think they're going to have somebody who's a beginner not enjoy it. So if they like the theme, if they like the concept, I think they can enjoy it. They just won't compete. So thumbs up. Replayability. We would have played it, I think, again. We all had just kind of figured it out. We probably took about an hour and a half to play, and we had a concept of the game, but we didn't want to chance that it took as long again because we would have been there really late. But I think this game has replayability in it. Once you know what you're doing, you definitely could play this game in under an hour. And I think it's one that you could pull out. I could see this being a game that you pull out as specifically a basketball game, meaning, hey, we have basketball going on. Let's all get together. We'll watch the game. We'll eat some food, and then when we get to like halftime, food will go away. We'll wash our hands up. We'll pull out a board game of Bastket Boss and see where we land. So I think it has some replayability. It has ability to get out there. Thumbs up. Keys to victory. This was a tough one. There's so many ways to go. You could invest in when you're drafting your 6 and say, I'm just going to draft the MVP every time. MVP is a 1-point MVP medal. So you could get up to 6 of those. So you could do that and say, I'm just going to commit to a guaranteed point every time and then do the best I can to compete there. You could compete by going all in on 1 year and just trying to make sure that you get 1 or 2 of those first place trophies. Or you could compete on trying to be consistent. So you may not be able to constantly hit a first, but you never hit last or fourth. You might be constantly getting that 3rd place and occasionally a 2nd. You could be working on trying to make sure that you get certain types of abilities to de-age your players. You get somebody like the trainer, you can help keep somebody in shape and keep them at the same star level for an extra season. So there's ways to work around this, And depending on what those special scorings are, you can definitely pick and choose how you're going to work your players. And because it's a bidding, you have to on the fly be ready to change what you're planning because somebody else outbid you, takes it, you don't have the option anymore. And now you have to figure out, well, what am I doing now? I had a plan, and then I was on the second bidding and I didn't get what I wanted, and now what do I do? So it's a really interesting game, but there's lots of keys to victory. Thumbs up. Is it unique? Recently, I did a review of All-Star Draft. It was a drafting hockey game. Now, I would compare this because it's another sport game, it's another drafting your players game, but I would put this on a totally different level than that. That game was about drafting, dealing with the circumstances of your particular location you were going to be playing in, and then going to the playoffs, and it was totally different. And it was elimination of player style to figure out your points. This is every season you're going up to the playoffs. Every season you're drafting players and they're aging up for the next year. You could choose to draft a bunch early, draft a bunch late, mix it throughout. To me, this is unique. I haven't seen a game that quite does it the way this does. I think it's really interesting. I got to give it a thumbs up. Overall, what do I think? This is not a must play. It's not a must try by any means. It's not a must add to your collection. But it's a cool little side game. If you're looking for a sport themed game, I'd say this and All-Star Draft are the top two for me. And I'd have no problem with somebody saying, I like basketball. I'd like a basketball themed game, and I'd definitely recommend it. It's a legit board game that has a basketball theme, and that's really cool. So I think if you have an opportunity, if you're a basketball fan or a sports fan and you'd like to add something like that into your collection, give it a try. Go check out some videos, go to a local board game store or somewhere and find somebody who has the game and try it. And if you have a chance to get it in your collection, go for it. Well, it has been day 232. We've been speaking about the game Bastket Boss. And you've been speaking to the Meeples champion. Like, share, subscribe, and check down below in the description where I'll be adding an Amazon link in case you want to get this game for your collection. Until next time, I'll talk to you tomorrow.